Hello again, this is Charlie Belfontaine, and you're listening to the Homebuyers Hour on WCPT, AM 820, where the facts matter. In the studio with us today, we have Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law. Patrick, give us a quick rundown on you, your company, and how do people get hold of you?
Good morning. I am Patrick Loftus with Loftus Law. We do real estate transactions. That is, you buy a house, you sell a house, you hire me to make sure you don't have a bad time. If you
Poor Patrick's looking at me right now, and I start giggling when he comes up with, it's that simple.
Yeah. It is. If you want to get in touch with me, you can shoot me a text, 773-632-8330.
And then remotely, we got Joey Matthews of the Federal Savings Bank. Joey, give me a quick shout out, and how do people get hold of you?
Yep, Joey Matthews, NMLS 1330694, running the frontline team at the Federal Savings Bank. You can get a hold of me at 630-235-2405. There you go.
We'll keep it that simple then.
Call or text.
So, going on in the world right now, we've had Hurricane Ian going through Florida and devastating damages. We're going through an inflationary thing where the feds are trying to slow stuff down. We've had super high construction costs in the past, and I'm predicting that that's going to be coming back again. And we're seeing that our mortgage rates are going up. Jory, that's a lot of stuff going on here. And, we're throwing screwballs, curveballs, every different type of pitch is coming across the plate right now. What's our best defense?
Best defense. This is going to sound like the typical used car salesman mortgage guy, right? But here's, and I think we touched on this last week. Sellers aren't going to want to sell. Buyers aren't going to want to buy. We're going to be in a standoff, right? What that is good for is still going to be good for home value. So if you are a buyer and you do find something to buy, I would suggest, if you love it, not just want to get it because you can. If you love it, go get after it, right? In terms of the mortgage rate market, obviously, recession is kind of a good thing for mortgage rates because during a recession, the Fed tries to make things more affordable. To stimulate spending, they'll drop things like the Fed-based interest rate, which is what they've been rising of late. Last week, we saw the 10-year Treasury yield tickle 4%, which is the highest it's been since 2007, 2006. However, because there is a global recession fear, not just in the United States,
right.
We also saw the UK, who had previously announced they were going to dump mortgage bonds. They went back on that, and they started buying into long-term bonds in the United States. So we saw the 10-year Treasury drop from that 4% down to almost 3.5% yield. And now we're hovering right back at 3.75 as of today. So mortgage rates should have dropped a bit over the last week. I know that right now a lot of investors are still not sure where it's going to go. So they're not changing margins as much as they potentially could. If they see some more stabilization, then we'll see rates come down more. But as of right now, it's still just too volatile for them to make long-term decisions based on short-term fluctuations that we've seen. So again, my thing is values are still going to be there, right?
That's always been the case, though, with everything when it comes to real estate. Patrick and I, we were talking before we got here today a little bit that real estate has been gradually going up. To me, it's always been the staple of investments that come in here.
Yeah, over the long term, the number I'm aware of is since about 1930, you can expect real estate, and this is a number that is, it's not localized as much as you'd like to, but on average, you can expect your real estate to appreciate at about 6%. So, year over year, obviously that's going to fluctuate, but if you're investing for the long term, you can reasonably expect that. And if you're going to get involved in a mortgage, let's set aside the rate and what it was, what it might be. You borrow that money today, and you're locking in your principal and interest. So if rates go up, you'll be very happy. Now, if rates go down, you can refi. All of a sudden, that home you bought just got more affordable, and you didn't have to do anything other than call Joey. So, I really
nice little plug.
I mean, that's what we're.
I apologize.
For, right?
I didn't notice I got locked out when I was talking there. So I'm glad you picked it up, Patrick, because that's what I was going to get after.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically speaking, it's hard for all of us to think that you're going to pay more to borrow the same money you would have a year ago. But I think that's looking at it just one sliver of the situation, because there are so many benefits to doing it, just about at any interest rate.
And I know this is a horrible thing to talk about and think it, but there's a housing shortage right now because of the devastation in Florida. What do you guys see what is that going to be doing to the homes that survived all that?
So I do a lot of work in Southwest Florida. So this has been a big thing for me over the last week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of rent gouging. It is what it is. So people who lost their homes, I just saw a 1,800 square foot house listed for rent for $5,000 a month.
Ouch.
Which is insane.
That's
right?
a shame.
It's people taking advantage of the economy and the fact that their house survived, right?
Yeah.
There are going to be people. So there's a program called 203H offered by FHA that allows you to finance 100% loan to value, right? So 0% down. You're allowed to do this if you are in Florida, if you're affected by the disaster, if you lost your home, and you're still in the market to buy a home that is as is, right? Because
Joey, did you say there was a 203H or a 203K?
203H.
That's interesting. I'm aware of the 203K, but I'm not aware of the 203H. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go more detail, please.
No, it's okay. So a 203H can be combined either with the 203B program, which is the regular FHA program where you're not doing repairs, or the 203K program where you are doing repairs. So if you are going to buy a property that was affected and you are within the 35,000 you're allowed to take out as part of the 203K, you can go up to a 100% LT loan to value, right? So a 0% down loan, essentially. And you could build up the property. If you combine it with the 203B program, which is the normal FHA everyday program, right? Then you can still do 100% financing, 0% down, and buy your next home as long as it is in good condition, right? So that's back to those MPRs that we talked about in the last few weeks, the minimum property requirements. So yeah, so there are things that people in Florida can do. Obviously, the big thing is just rebuilding all of Fort Myers, all of Estero, Cape Coral, Sanibel Island. I don't even know how you get back from that. But yeah, it's not pretty out there.
Well, everything that I read is where our federal government is really pumping a lot of money in there, and I'm gonna throw out an attaboy at them, and I don't want to turn this into politics heavily, but I gotta give them an attaboy for going in there and just saying, okay, we don't like some of the leaders in your state, but we're gonna help out our people and we're gonna do everything that we can and we're gonna do it fast. And I hope they follow through with that promise. I have very high hopes that they're going to follow through with that promise.
I reckon they will. I mean, if you've got a pickup truck and a cell phone, you can be a contractor. You just need to get yourself to Southwest Florida.
That's a scary thing, though.
a lot of
right?
that going on.
Oh my gosh!
And then that's another thing is the contractors and the good, fast, cheap theory. That's even the guys that are not good are not going to be cheap either. Everybody's going to be raising the prices, and then you're going to be bidding wars almost for getting the contractors, getting the materials, and getting everything because there's so much that needs to be done. And it's not going to affect just Florida. It's going to affect us here in Illinois, too, in the Chicagoland area, because we're going to find that all of our lumber and everything else is going to go down there because, well, quite frankly, there's a bigger demand for it, and they're going to be able to get more money for it than they are going to be able to get here. So that's going to end up hurting us too.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the folks in South Florida have been through this before, and they at least have experience on how to build back.
Yeah, and that's you talk about being tough. That's tough. You lose your home, and all your neighbors and family and your support group loses their homes too. That takes a lot of guts to be able to rebuild from that. So I give them attaboys like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
What does that do with the insurance? I mean, Florida's another state that has a lot of insurance issues too, don't they? Where like they make you redo your roof if it's 15 years old, and they got a lot of power with wind mitigation stuff.
There are a ton of insurance companies that just won't write policies in Florida. They've done the math, and I don't remember. My sister and her family live down there, and I don't remember. I'm not sure they told me exactly what they pay, but we did have a brief conversation about it, and it's a lot more than what you and I pay. I can promise you that.
That's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I know I got a friend of mine that just bought down in Fort Myers. Now, they didn't close yet, and they're supposed to be closing on I think it's next week. And obviously that's going to be pushed off real quick. And, she was in a major stress mode, because she didn't know what was going on with her home and stuff. And this goes back to, what this entire show is about. I think her story is a good thing to share. She was livid over the last few days. And she wasn't livid because the storm came through and did stuff. She was livid because when she asked what the condition of the home was or what happened with it and she wanted specifics, the only person who was able to get there and give them the story was the listing agent at the time. And the listing agent was very flippant. It says, oh, yeah, everything's fine. You're good. Don't worry about it. What do you mean don't worry about it? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that comes in there. And, every home is somebody's dream. I don't care how big or small it is, but to belittle something like that. And then she finds out that she only had like about 3 inches of water, and that might be fine to one person, but in an environment like Florida where mold is rampant, and you got to get that stuff cut out and dried up real quick, even if it's only a few inches of water, it's fine. It just infuriated her.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Honestly, the best insurance policy she can get for herself is a plane ticket to Fort Myers and get down there and get her eyeballs on it. Because at the end of the day, as a buyer, if you don't trust your team, you don't trust your agent because they're not giving you, they're not giving it to you either straight, or you're getting a feeling that they are perhaps acting more in their own interest than in yours. You've got to jump in. You can't just let it happen to you. Get down there, get your eyeballs on it, and if you need to, call someone like me, just someone who's licensed in Florida.
I didn't know that. And you're licensed in Florida, Joey?
No, I'm not licensed in Florida.
Oh, you're not?
Call someone like me.
Oh, someone that is licensed.
I misunderstood you.
No, getting licensed in Florida is a giant pain.
Is it? Okay. But Joey, you are licensed in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm in all 50 states. I do a ton of work in Florida. So I actually had 3 closings that were supposed to happen this week in Fort Myers and Cape Coral that they're all right now. Well, one is canceled because the house is ruined. It had 5 feet of water. And the 2 others, I'm told, are in good condition. So we have to get the appraisers back out to do what's called a disaster certification to make sure that the home is in good condition, to make sure it's still marketable and the value has not been impacted. In fact, I think if a house is standing after this hurricane, the value should be higher.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to. I mean, I feel horrible even thinking that way, because one person's devastation is another person's gain where it comes to it. But that is true. I mean, our economy is supply and demand, and you just lost a bunch of supply.
Well, you can have
Sorry.
compassion for these folks and still also evaluate it from a more, a more distant, cold way. I mean, those things can exist at the same time, I think.
So let me ask you guys, how do you know, this is a tough question here. How do we know that, what could we tell our listeners? How do they know that they got a good, reputable, transparent, honest real estate agent? What are some of the clues that they should be watching out for?
The best advice I can give is listen to what your agent is saying and doing when there's something about the transaction that could go against their ability to collect a commission. Okay, so
Ooh, that's
in other
interesting.
words, anytime someone's giving you advice and it's against their own personal gain, that is a big check mark in someone's favor, because that to me demonstrates that they are representing me. They're not just there for their own. And trust me, I've worked with hundreds of agents over the years. You'll know. Trust me, you will know when that person is really trying to downplay something. They say, well, there's I'll use an example from my own experience. There's a rental cap. I know you want to keep the place and rent it out when you're done living there, but it should be fine. Don't worry about it. And it's like, well, what do you mean don't worry about it? Why would you try to convince somebody to buy a place that they can't ultimately use the way they want to? That to me is someone that's not there for their client. They're there to just get the commission by hook or by crook. Look for someone who is willing to, literally torpedo their own financial gain to give you the right advice.
And maybe torpedo is not the right word, but like, for example, if they negotiate something, let's say it's a buyer's agent, and they're negotiating something to go ahead and lower the price of the home, they're also lowering their commission that they get out of that house, because they work on the sale price of the house and a percentage off of that. So somebody who's more willing to help you do that, they realize that the few small 1% that they're going to end up getting is going to be far less. And when I say 1%, the high that I've ever heard of is like 6% sales. The low that I usually hear is 4%. I know there's less that come in there, but then that gets split up basically 4 different ways. All right. The listing sponsoring broker gets half. The selling sponsoring broker gets half. And then the sponsoring broker splits that with the actual real estate broker. All right.
More or less. It's a little more complicated than that, but let's just work on that.
And then for me, on the home inspection side, and this is a fair warning, if you ever have a real estate agent that's going to limit the time that the home inspector is going to be in that building, in other words, we're only giving you 1 hour or 2 hours to go ahead and do your home inspection. That's somebody who's trying to rush, the home inspector through your process there. And the faster they go, the more they're going to miss. Now, that doesn't mean that you get in there, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, you kick your feet up on the couch, and you have a nice conversation with the client. You focus on what you're doing, but you don't want to go running through it. And one of my favorite movies was The Hunt for Red October. And there was a line in there when they said that the Russian subs, they're flying down, and the officer of the U.S. sub goes, yeah, but they're not listening to anything. And Ryan goes, what do you mean they're not listening to him? Well, they're moving so fast that if they drove over my daughter's stereo, they wouldn't hear it. So they're pinging away, but they're not listening to anything. And they were trying to drive the sub to where the other subs were listening. And that's the same thing here. The faster we go, the more we miss. And I never learned that until I tried to, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I want to say that 10-year mark, I was trying to accommodate many real estate agents that went bad, and they wanted me to go faster. So I would try to go faster and faster and be more and more efficient. That harmed my client. That harmed my reputation, and it took a big punch in the stomach to realize this is not good. And I had to change that business practice. I couldn't keep doing that.
Yeah. What you're describing is shifting your focus from the task at hand to the amount of time the task at hand is taking. And if you're not present with what you're doing, especially, your job is 100% about what you're observing, being present, being focused. If you're looking at your watch, this is where your focus is. And if that's
on the
case,
watch, not on the house.
Yeah. Like you said, if there's an agent who is, this is what they care about, red flag, man.
It's funny you say that because, we won't let our guys even write the report on site. We want them focusing on the house. We want them focusing on the client. We don't want them focusing on writing the report. What about you, Joey? What's in the finance world? How do you know when you're dealing with somebody? But you know what? I'm sorry. We're at that 20-minute mark. Joey, how do people get a hold of you, please?
Hey, you can get a hold of me on my cell phone, text or call, 630-235-2405. You can also find me on the social medias, Joey W. Matthews, unless you're on TikTok, in which case I am Mortgages Are Fun.
And I got to tell you, I love that title. Patrick, how do I get a hold of you again?
Yeah, you won't find me on TikTok. I'm not Law is Fun. Law's not usually fun, if I'm honest. But yeah, email me at patrick@loftus.law.
And my name is Charlie Belfontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Repeating, 312-544-9180. And if you're interested in learning more about the home inspection profession, go to Home Inspection University of Illinois, HIUIL.com. Again, HIUIL.com. And Joey, I was asking you, how can you recognize if you're going to have a real estate agent that doesn't have their best or doesn't have their client's best interest at hand?
I mean, for me, I guess it's just when I have you get a feel for people, right? We talk to people all the time. We're on the phone all the time. When I'm talking to an agent and they're completely distracted, and I'm trying to be really specific with a client, and they get like annoyed with me, and usually that'll happen because I'm not preferred lender, whatever, which is fine. But I'm someone who connects with buyers more than I connect with realtors. At the end of the day, that's just the way I've always operated. But it's really just the conversations that I'm having, and when you do this so much, you just have a feel for people, and you're like, oh man, this is not going to be good. So I talk to the clients because they're usually a mutual client rather than a referral client, and I'll just be like, hey, just make sure that when you're doing this inspection that it's thorough. Make sure that you're not getting yourself into anything that you don't want to be getting into. Because I don't get to go to the house, so I don't see what they're getting until I have an appraisal, right? So it's for me, it's a little bit different, I guess.
Now, do you find
you can just tell when you're talking?
Do you find it where a real estate agent might try to force comps that are way too high to try to justify a higher price for the house?
And all the time, and it almost never works. Almost never works. And then they get so upset, especially when they're giving comps that are just listings. You're like, well, this house is listed for this amount of dollars. I'm like, okay, well, show me something that closed at that price point, and we'll use it. And they're like, well, I don't have anything that's closed. I'm like, okay, well, then it's not a comp. It's funny that there's so much of this trying to get away with things when you can't. We need closed sales. We need listings. We need closed sales for our comps, please.
And everything is about, transparency. I know we try to invite a new real estate agent on the show every day, and you guys might not be aware of some of the emails that I send out to them, but I make it absolutely clear. If you don't believe that you should be totally transparent with the client, or you believe that your time is more important than the client, we don't want you on the show. It's that simple. I'm not going to bring anybody out here to start touting something that's going to end up harming any of our listeners. I just can't do it, and that's the whole reason why you two are in here as well. And I think that's the common denominator that I'm hearing is we build that relationship with the clients because we go out of our way for them to build a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, look, the real estate broker shouldn't be trying to have some kind of competition or get into a combative relationship with the mortgage broker.
Or any of us.
You guys are working together. I mean, anytime we've got anything that impacts the finances, whether it's a credit, whatever we're trying to do, inevitably I'm like, let's circle the mortgage broker and let's make sure that whatever we're going to propose or whatever, we're looking to agree with the seller, that it can be done. All right, so we want this credit. is there enough space for it, or do we have to come up with some other solution to that problem?
Joey, you're going
creative
to
financing.
creative financing.
No, I just love that you just said that. So the big thing for me is all you lawyers listening out there, if you're going to negotiate a credit, for the love of God, please just say, give me an addendum saying that X amount of dollars is being provided to go towards seller closing costs and concession, whatever. Don't tell me it's because of mold found in the attic, because now you just opened a can of worms if that's what I'm seeing in the addendum. If I know what it's for, underwriting will know what it's for. Underwriting is going to ask to see the credit, and they're also going to ask to see remediation.
I'm shocked that you would even encounter that. I mean, it's like standard operating procedure. I mean, I have a form. You get to
the time.
You get to the credit. You fill in the form. Get the parties to sign it, off to the mortgage broker. Done deal. I mean, it's always a closing cost credit. I'm like kind of jaw on the floor that this is something that you would even have to
but it does happen.
People.
Yeah.
It happens in
It
my
happens
thing too.
so often.
Yeah. I mean, not every attorney is experienced in real estate. And it goes back to,
Yes.
It goes back to something that I'm trying to overcome. And my personal weakness is being prejudiced. All right. And it is. I can't say that all attorneys are the same, or everybody should do this, or all real estate agents are the same, or all home inspectors are the same. We are all different. All right. And there's good and bad in everybody. And that's one of the things, if we could, recognize, okay, this person's inexperienced. This might be their first real estate things, whatever. I don't want you making these mistakes. Or maybe they're just a bad player. They're an evildoer, and they would exist. And then you need to recognize that to protect yourself too.
Fortunately, I don't run into a lot of people who are intentionally trying to cause bad. I mean, I won't name names. There's a couple that come to mind. But yeah, it's the other one where the competence, and I don't mean competence in the sense of can do it or not do it, but I mean when we talk about competence in law, we talk about, are you up to speed on this area of law? Not can you represent this client without them, without committing malpractice. That's not the standard you should be living up to. But having the so one of the biggest struggles I have, especially you do come across someone who's not represented by a lawyer who handles a lot of real estate transactions, is educating them without bruising their ego, because I hear that. I recognize that people in my profession, probably myself included, our egos can be a little bit outsized. But yeah, if I start teaching someone the law,
you went to a lot of school. You did a lot of education. You put out a lot of money, a lot of time.
Yes, but if that ego creates, if your ego is big, it creates a big blind spot as well. So you got to try to keep that in check. But
Fair.
trying to educate someone on a particular thing without bruising their ego, it's a tightrope you got to walk. But that's another aspect of my job they didn't teach me in law school.
That's amazing. Joey, anything more to add on that? Because otherwise I'm going to change the subject.
Man, you're preaching to the choir, Patrick. I love it. I love it. I've been doing this for 26 years, and I've never heard of this. Yeah, okay.
Joey, you just triggered me, dude. But here's the thing. Okay, so let me just give you my thought on that. As soon as, and especially a lawyer, as soon as their argument is the amount of time they've been practicing law, I know that they don't have anything, and I know I've got them.
Yeah.
So what happens when the home inspector has been around for 30 years?
Well,
that guy has no.
Charlie, I've never.
Is that what your lead is? Is that what you're leading with?
No,
if
it's
that's
not
your
my
qualifying
lead.
statement, you're out.
No,
Yeah,
it's not. But I do say that. Now I'm hating that I say it.
No, Charlie. If you had nothing else to offer, then yeah, I'd be like, that guy's suspicious. But no,
Fair.
I mean, you mentioned that simply to give context. It's different. Trust me. If a lawyer, if you're having a conversation with a lawyer, and I'll say conversation, not argument, because that's what my folks would want me to say, and the only thing they can really say is, look, I've been doing this 35 years and we've always done it X way. I'm just like, well, I could either. There's a lot of things I can say.
Years?
Yeah, but yeah, in 35 years, things might have changed, or
They
maybe
have changed.
you didn't learn too much in 35 years, or maybe you don't have a good argument, and that's all you got.
That triggers me a little bit now because, we have 10 inspectors in our company. And a lot of people, when they call to look for a home inspector, they're like, how much experience does this person have? And I'm like, I'm never going to hire. I hired one person, and I love this guy. Don't get me wrong. I hired one person that had 20 years of experience, and I will never do that again. All right. And the whole reason is because I am a stubborn baboon, and I want to do things my way. All right. I want to use more tools, more equipment, go overboard, take more time. I want to service the client my way. And if anybody else is going to come work under our name, I want buy-in. They got to buy into that, and they got to want to do the same thing. And when you get somebody who's been around for 20 years, in my mind, they might have been doing it wrong for 20 years. But they're set in stone, and that's the right way in their mind on how to do this. Mm-hmm. But what I do is when I have the school and I'm going through the education stuff, these guys don't realize it, but they're on a 15-day, 8 hours a day interview with me. They don't, I'm watching how they interact with each other. I'm seeing if they have a passion for helping other people. I don't care if they're weak in knowledge. That I can add, all right? Yeah. But I cannot add the attitude of wanting to help another person.
Well, Charlie, what you're saying kind of proves the point, which is that, what am I trying to say? Let me shift off of that. What you're describing is a company that has institutional wisdom of 30 years. Okay, so you bring that to the table. Now, why do people say I have X number of years in this business? It's because it's persuasive, right?
It is persuasive.
Now, you have to figure out whether that's the only thing they have to persuade you with, or if there is a foundation underneath that. And what you're describing to me is something that's built solid, not a house of cards that I can topple by saying, well, okay, you've been doing this X number of years. What else? Okay, nothing else? Then that's it.
It was nice talking to you. Have a nice day. Click. Is how it goes from there. So, but anyway, yeah, you guys got me going. I'm very passionate about this stuff. So I love you both, but I am going to change the subject. All right.
Okay.
And I want to bring up some property tax stuff. So Patrick, we were talking a little bit as we were walking over here. Talk to me about that. Property taxes. I mean, what was the comment we made? Most people want to know, when do I have to pay and how do I pay less?
Yeah. Gosh, how much time do we have left? Probably not enough.
There never is.
Let me see if I can do this without boring everyone to tears. So probably the most topical thing about real estate taxes right now is the 2021 second installment. And I'm specifically talking about Cook County. You folks out in the collar counties will probably think to yourselves, what's this guy talking about? And that's because things are calm out there, and good for you. I mean, your tax bill's super high, but at least you know what to expect.
I need to ask you, what do you mean by calm?
Calm. So in the collar counties, you're just like in Cook, you're going to pay in 2 installments, but those are going to be 2 equal installments. You're going to get that bill sometime, usually early May. First installment's going to be due the first week of June. Second installment's going to be due first week of September. And it's just going to happen that way. You'll get incremental increases, but you don't get the whiplash every 3 years like you do in Cook County.
Okay.
So it's a more calm way of living. In Cook County, no one's going to be surprised to learn that it's always different. It's always complicated. So the 2021 second installment, since about 2011, we've seen, and excluding last year and this year, we've seen first installments that come out anywhere between as late as January, due in March, but also ever since they changed the income tax laws, they've actually been sending out that first installment in the previous year. So if you want to deduct that on your income tax for that previous year, you can pay it in that year and take advantage of that. Now, second installment, since from about 2011, before that, I don't even want to talk about it. From about 2011 until our 2019 bill due 2020, the second installment would come out last week of June, due first week of August.
Okay.
And that second installment, it's it's whatever amount, roll your dice. But last 2 years, of course, due to the thing that everyone that's affected everything, the second installments come out late. Now, last year, I believe the second installment of 2020 due June 2021. I'm even confusing myself.
No, that's all right.
It came out in August and it was due in October. This year, and I started hearing rumors, several months ago that it was, maybe even going to be second installment coming out in 2023. It's even later this year. And
when you said everything that people know about, you're talking about COVID, right?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I'm not the smartest apple on the tree here.
Maybe
all right?
I'm being too cute. So fair enough. The latest news that I've been made aware of is that we can expect the 2021 second installment around Thanksgiving. It's going to be due after Christmas. And that's a good thing in one sense, in that it will keep that bill and that deduction on your 2022 taxes. So you're not going to be finding yourself with less deductions and a higher income tax bill as a result. The reason that is being cited by the Board of Review is a change in the computer systems, or I think it's an excuse, but that's they apparently have a new integrated computer system. But they did and do recognize the importance of getting these bills out so that they can be paid in 2022.
Do you expect them to be coming back again? I mean, coming back in earlier points of the year, like back into September and such?
Well, I do. So estimates are that it's about $16 billion in uncollected taxes. Now, you can imagine from the county's perspective, from anyone's perspective, if I've got a $16 billion receivable that I have to wait instead of collecting it in August, I'm going to collect it in December. It's not good.
No.
It doesn't work that well.
And it's not like the federal government where you could just print more money. Well, they don't have that option.
They could issue bonds, but anyways, I'm going to
Joey, maybe we should get into printing money. What do you think?
I mean, clearly it works well. We're only $31 trillion in debt right now, so whatever.
What do we call it? Joey Bucks or Charlie Dollars or Patrick? We're going to stay out of that because I think that's illegal and we're already doing that. I'm sorry, Patrick. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to get ourselves, I don't want the cops busting in on us here. All right, so that's your second installment 2021 bill. It's coming out, during the holidays. You'll still be able to afford Christmas presents because most of you guys are going to be escrowing anyway. So, and if you're not, well, there's other ways to do Christmas than to buying expensive Christmas gifts, I suppose.
That does bring up a good point, though, Joey. How does the escrow, if somebody is escrowing their mortgages and the taxes go up and there's not enough money in the escrow fund, how does that affect the homeowner or the borrower?
So your mortgage payment isn't going up, but your payment to your housing cost is going up. So they're going to two things. They're going to give you two options. They're going to say, hey, we have to increase your base payment towards your escrow account for taxes, right? But we're also short for this year. So you can either pay a lump sum to make up the shortage, or we can add that over the next 12 months until the shortage is made up for and you're good to go for future bills, right? So
and how do they normally
when that
work?
happens, people are like,
I mean, what I'm asking is, how do they normally work? Do they want to break even? Do they want to get down to zero by the end of the year, or do they want to have a reserve?
They've got a cushion.
Yeah, 2-month cushion for taxes and insurance.
2 months cushion. Okay, not a whole year cushion or anything. that comes in there.
2 month cushion.
You basically add the bills together, divide by 12, times that by 2, add that to the total of the 3 bills, and then divide that again by 12. There's your escrow.
Now, I play Nerdle every morning, and I'm pretty gosh darn good at it, all right? And for those of you that don't know what Nerdle is, it's like the Wordle with numbers, all right? I still didn't follow all that stuff, but I think I do have it a little bit. But anyway, you were talking more about, and we're at that mark, Patrick. Before you go on and tell us more about the taxes, can you please give us your contact information again?
773-632-8330. It's my cell phone. Call me, text me. I think those are the 2 options.
And again, that's Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law.
That's me.
Joey?
Yeah, Joey Matthews over at the frontline team of the Federal Savings Bank. You can call or text me anytime, 630-235-2405.
And I'm Charlie Belfontaine with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, that's plural, O-R-S, and it's a .com. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. And Patrick, please continue on with the taxes. Sorry.
Yeah. So, Charlie, you mentioned that everything I'm explaining is starting to get super confusing, and now you know what it's like to be one of my clients when I'm explaining real estate tax issues.
Actually, you made it clear for me. So you know, and I do like asking questions that might seem a bit simple and that, but you know what? If somebody, I've been doing enough teaching for home inspectors long enough to realize that the person who doesn't understand is the person who's not going to raise their hand and ask the question. So I would rather ask the question and just get it out in the open here. Please don't think I'm being insulting.
No worries. Listen, it's in my opinion, real estate taxes are made purposefully opaque and difficult to understand, because if most of us knew how the sausage was made, we'd complain even more about real estate taxes. And I know that sounds a little bit conspiracy theory-y. I don't think that's the word, but
it is now.
But you know, it's Cook County, and I'm entitled to be a bit cynical as far as and it's for the state of Illinois in general. I'm entitled to some cynicism about how our governments operate. So, anyways, I know you shouldn't be taking notes. God forbid. If the only thing you take away from what I'm saying is, gee, I ought to call Patrick to get more information about real estate taxes, I've succeeded. So all the rest of it is just filler to kind of, you know, demonstrate that I know a thing or two about this. All right, so I'm going to transition off of the second installment 2021. I could spend the next 3 shows talking about all the various issues, but let's not do that. Let's talk about something that is going to be a little more actionable in terms of our listeners saving some money. Let's talk about exemptions. So exemptions operate to reduce your tax bill, and they're based on certain standards that you have to meet in order to qualify for an exemption. Now, the 2 most common, or the 2 probably most well-known, are the homeowner exemption, which you're entitled to if your home is owner-occupied, and and it has to be owner-occupied on January 1 of that tax year. The other that is commonly, I think, known about is the senior exemption. So if you are 65, again, on January 1 of that tax year, you're entitled to claim the senior exemption. I believe there is, you are able to prorate that senior exemption if you turn 65 in the middle of that year. Someone might tell me otherwise, and I'd have to go look it up. But I know for sure if you've already turned 65, as of the day that it ticks over the new calendar year, you get that senior exemption.
Now, my wife and I own our house together. Do we both have to be 65?
You do not. As long as one of the owners is 65. You can imagine, for example, my wife is 12 years younger than me. She would never get to claim the senior exemption if we got to wait till she turns 65, because 65 plus 12 is a lot.
And the homeowner exemption, that one, does it matter the type of property? In other words, if you live in a 4-flat, 12-unit building. Are you still able to take that exemption?
Oh man, you asked me a question I don't exactly know the answer to.
Fair enough. Then don't. We'll come back to it next year, or we'll post it up on our Facebook page at the Homebuyers Hour.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to look it up later and correct myself next week. It's considered residential if you've got 6 or less units. So I'm going to say if you've got 6 or less, ring me up. I will have looked that up by the time you call me.
And that's, I think, in residential law, and I thought the number was 4. And I know in home inspector law, if there's even one person that's going to live in that building, no matter how big it is, it's called residential real property by our definitions.
Don't you love how the standard is different across
Everywhere.
the board? A title company will tell you the threshold is 6 before they consider it commercial.
Real estate, I think, is 4. In their law.
Yeah, the number in my head is 6. Now,
Okay.
if you want to, I just had to look this up for one of my brokers.
I'm looking at 2 now.
If you want to file a broker, a real estate broker lien, commercial starts at 7. So,
Okay.
So the definitions are all over the map, and it makes it very confusing and makes my job even more difficult. Now, I started off by saying this can help save you some money, and here's how you do it. A lot of people don't realize they're not getting the exemptions they're entitled to. And if you go to Cook County Property Info, you can plug, this is specific to Cook County. If you're in another county, Google your county's treasurer's office and look at your tax bill, and it'll show you whether or not you're receiving any exemptions. If you're owner occupied, you can go and on the Cook County Assessor's website, cookcountyassessor.com, you can submit what's called a certificate of error, and you can go back 3 years and you can get money back from the treasurer's office once they approve
Nice.
those exemptions you're entitled to.
What's that website again?
So if you want to look it up, go to Cook County Property Info.
Okay.
That's one that's super useful for anyone that's going to look up information about their property.
And just to be clear, is that cookcountyproperty.info or is that cookcountypropertyinfo.com?
cookcountypropertyinfo.com. I probably use that website 3, 4, 5 times a day. And likewise, Cook County Assessor.
I've used it twice since we've been on this call.
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding. I have.
That's awesome.
It's a super helpful website for me. I mean, every single property I deal with, I gotta see what's going on there. But to submit for that certificate of error, if you see that you have exemptions that you could have claimed, is Cook County Assessor, and you can click through. If you aren't writing this down, write down my phone number, call me, I'll give you that information. But it's super useful. I give that advice to my clients when I get a contract in. Seller, I look it up, I see that they're not getting exemptions they're entitled to. I go, I saw you're not getting some of the exemptions you're entitled to. Click through here, apply for those exemptions, and not only are they going to get money back from the treasurer, but that's going to help reduce the tax credit they give at closing.
Nice.
So it's really helpful. Go look and see whether you're getting your exemptions. There are more exemptions, by the way. Joey, you're probably aware of this one, disabled veteran exemption. I have a client, when they lived in Cook County, had 0 tax bill, and totally deserved it. She gave up a lot to serve our country, so that's another lesser known exemption that people can apply for, and they may not be aware that they're entitled to. But there's a whole slew of them. If you think, hey, I think there's an exemption out there, again, reach out to me. Last topic, again, it's how to save money. Property assessment appeals, okay? One of, if not the most important number that goes into calculating your tax bill is the assessed valuation. In the Caller counties, not going to change too often, but you can still appeal. Everyone's entitled to appeal. Now, you can appeal yourself. I know lots of people that do it. I personally wouldn't. I instead would, I'd hire an assessment appeal attorney. I can connect you with one of those guys. I know one that's really good. But there's really no downside as far as I'm concerned.
No. Why would,
If you appeal, yes, technically the law says they can they can evaluate it and raise it. Never seen that happen. These are elected officials. Not a good way of trying to get votes for your next term in office. It's either going to stay the same or go down. The attorney you hire is going to charge you based on the amount of money they save. So they're super motivated to save you money. And so, by all means, it's a win. It's a no-lose situation. I won't say it's a win. It's not always a winner, but it's a no-lose situation. The probably most important thing about when to appeal is the timing. The timing is crucial. You're going to get a postcard every year. It's going to tell you how much your new assessment is, and that starts actually when that card goes out, it starts the clock ticking on your 30-day window to appeal.
That's a short window.
You get that card, reach out to me. I'll get you connected right up with the appeal lawyer. Try to save you some money. So I got a lot more to say about real estate taxes, but you just showed me some numbers, and that's all the time we got. So we'll circle back and talk some more.
And I know when I lived in Will County, I made the phone call and we started doing the appeal process just by phone call. And they were quick. They were quick to give me an offer, because I don't think they want to deal with every single resident in court going over all the battles of these things. So they gave me a simple, I could have probably gotten more, but just by filling out their paperwork is like an automatic something reduction, right?
Well, it can be. And your your township assessor is going to be going in front of the same board of review, 100, 200, however many times. They get a vibe about how this board of review is deciding these things.
Gotcha.
And then they can just say, look, let's just do what's going to happen anyway. We don't have to sit,
save everybody time.
Indeed.
That
they're
makes a lot of
pragmatic,
sense.
and again, they're elected officials. It's not to their benefit to fight everyone tooth and nail over every penny.
No, it isn't. But on the same note, I think a lot of these taxes do go up more, assuming that most people are going to, appeal them. But then all of a sudden, I know we were paying a lot more taxes than our neighbors because we weren't appealing them. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind paying my taxes, but I want to pay my fair share. I don't want to pay somebody else's share.
100%. And, that's where a lot of these, well, we don't have enough time for this, but yes, you'll end up paying not your fair share. Go appeal.
Let's go ahead and start wrapping this up here. We're getting to the end of the show. Patrick, how do people get hold of you if they got questions on this?
773-632-8330. Patrick@loftus.law.
And your website?
Loftus.law.
That's nice and easy, isn't it?
Should be.
I love it. And Joey, how do they get hold of you?
You can call me at 630-235-2405 or text me, especially if you have questions about the disabled veteran exemption. That's state of Illinois, not just Cook County.
Yes,
I love it.
Yes, good point.
That's a good point to bring up in there, and thanks for taking care of our veterans. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. I'd like to give a special thank you to Devin Tingle. He's our producer. He's in the studio with us right now. And this is Charlie, and I am out.